My name is Adetty Perez-Miles, and I'm an assistant professor here at UNT, and this is my colleague.
And I'm Paula Gaetano Adi, and I'm a former assistant professor here at UNT, and the new media program in the studio art department. Yeah, we're all sad about that. And I'm currently an assistant professor at the school, Rhode Island School of Design. And thank you so much for being here. This is really good.
So we would like to begin by briefly touching on the line of inquiry guiding the symposium. Following, we will introduce the artist. The artist will then give a short 20-minute presentation about their art and research. After that, we're going to have about a 15 to 20-minute coffee break next door in room 219. We have some things coming in from Panera, which looks yummy. After the break, we're going to come back, and Paula and I are going to moderate the discussion, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A for the audience members. So we encourage you to write down your questions and your comments and things that resonated with you as the presenters start talking about their work, and share that with us for the Q&A. But before we do that, we want to give some special thanks to people that have supported us. And so we have the UNT and Center for Global Research Opportunities, IGRO, jointly sponsored by the Office of Research and Economic Development at UNT International, the CVAD Visiting Artist and Scholar Series, the generous support of the Department of Art Education and Art History, the Department of Studio Art, the New Media Art Program, and our former Dean, Robert Mills.
I want to also thank you very much for the support of the Chair of Art Education and Art History. It wouldn't be possible with her support, and the same for the Chair of Studio Art, Ed Lawrence, Denise Baxter for Art Education and Art History. Really, their support was really, really important for this to happen. Also want to thank Angela Vanesek, that I'm not sure she's here, but she did an amazing work doing this. Yeah, really, she really did a clap. Also, from the Art Education and Art History Administrative Assistant, Betsy Snedson. She also did a great job. And Mary Brandon from the Office Dean was really helpful with this process. Also, I want to thank the visiting assistant professor in the New Media Program, Martin Bach. He was helping us to arrange the workshop for the New Media students tomorrow in my absence.
And I think we need to switch slides. We especially want to thank our graduate and undergraduate students for not only for helping us in so many ways, airport, arranging the coffee break, but for the passion, for the curiosity that they bring to their research and to their practice. So we have these amazing people here. Julie, who is an MFA in New Media and an MA in Art Education, so she's doing two things. Casey Jenkins, Liz, Gabriel, Jacob, Dusan, Fermin, Katie, Jenna, Guy, Jorge, Alyssa, and Nora. They have all been instrumental for us to put this together.
And the people from New Media and Photo Department, Gabriel, Jacob, and Gas, they're all helping us to document the event. So for photo people and New Media, there's also their input here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for our students' work.
So I'm just going to introduce a little bit what was the driving questions of this, how we came to do this a little bit. So Tactical Robotics, which is the title of our symposium, is a creative terminological appropriation, drawing its inspiration from two formations: the assembly of resistant cultural practices referred to as tactical media, and the artistic ferment around robotics and artificial life. Inspired by Michel Desserteau's practice of everyday life, we conceived this symposium as an attempt to understand how the strategies generated by institutions, universities, museum, corporations, funding agencies, etc., are tactically reappropriated in Latin America by artists and scholars in their creative practice, but also in their everyday teaching situations and in their pedagogical encounters. So we have a few questions that sort of drove this seminar and this symposium, and these were our questions. What does it mean to produce technology based in Latin America? How is technology and the discourse of artificial life embodied, performed, and executed in Latin America? How can art educators develop a critical perspective that will help them problematize the conditions that frame and limit actions surrounding the intersection of art, science, and technology? So to help us understand this, or to help us answer these questions, we invited these 4 incredible people. These are all 4 international renowned artists and scholars, and they have been developing work for many years from Latin America to the world, and in a very cross-disciplinary fashion, and intersecting art, technology, science, architecture, cybernetics, and pedagogy.
Besides being creative makers, these 4 artists are all related to education in one way or another, and they are all playing crucial roles in the development of pedagogical explorations inside and outside formal places of learning, and also as well as in art and in technology in Latin America and internationally. For instance, we have Mariela Yeregui. She is she is the current director of one of the first master programs in electronic arts. The first. That makes a big difference. In electronic art in South America. Gustavo Crembil, now teaching here in the US, though for many years in Córdoba, Argentina, where he originated a postgraduate degree program in new media art back when there was no other program in new media art in the country. Arcangelo Constantini is an independent curator and has been working in large curatorial projects such as the Tránsito Mex Festival or the Cyber Lounge at the Museo Rufino Tamayo, one of the premier museums of contemporary art in Mexico City. And then we have Guto Nobrega. He directs the Nano Lab, perhaps one of the only laboratories in a public university devoted to the development of experimental cybernetic art projects. With the firm conviction that it remains crucial to investigate, critique, and create forms of collective production, distribution, and development of knowledge that engages with history and culture, academia and the public, technoscience and everyday life, we are so deeply honored to have them here sharing with us their great work. So please give them a warm reception.
What we're going to do is now we're going to let them speak, and they're going to speak for around 20 minutes each, and we're going to introduce them. It's really hard to introduce these people that have really such an extensive CV, so we're going to do a short attempt to introduce their practice and their scholarly research. And we're going to start with Mariela Yeregui. If you want to start off, yeah, I will introduce Mariela. So Mariela Yeregui is an electronic artist and a scholar working in interactive installations, video installation, net art, video sculptures, and robotic installations. Yeregui writes and teaches about the intersection of art, science, and technology and has been doing this for about 20 years. Really, her writings in Spanish in Latin America have been really foundational in understanding the history and the aesthetic of electronic art and robotic art, especially in Latin America. The relationship between art and technology have a long history in Argentina, where she's from and where she works, and in South America. Light and movement experiments in the 40s were the precedents to many trends developed during the 60s, including kinetic art, video art, and some incursions and expanded cinema. Mechanical and electronic devices, light, machine, cinematography, projections, sound system, video, and computers came to appear very often in the work and reflection of young artists. Mariela Yeregui is the first generation of Argentinians, artists, and scholars whose mission was to formalize an education in new media art. She was the founder member of the first BFA program in electronics art in Argentina, and the founder and director of the Master of Electronic Technology and Aesthetics of Electronic Art in the National University 3 de Febrero, Universidad Nacional de 3 de Febrero, in Buenos Aires. The first, and as this says, the first and the only program in South America of this kind. Yeregui was artist in resident at the Hypermedia Studio at UCLA, the Banff Center for the Arts in Canada, the MECA in Barcelona. And Yeregui has exhibited in various festivals and exhibitions all over the world. Her work has been awarded prestigious prizes, such as the first prize VIP Art in in Barcelona, and the first prize in the Salón Nacional in 2005, and the first prize of the Museum of Modern Art in Buenos Aires, and she just recently got the first award in the Academia Nacional de Bellas Artes in Argentina. So welcome, and it's a really big pleasure for me. She was my mentor for many years, so I'm really happy to have her here.
Okay, hello everybody. First of all, I want to say thank you to Paula and Adetty for this invitation. I want to thank the University of North Texas for giving us the possibility of sharing our experience with you, and also everyone here to attend this event and give us the possibility to show our work. Well, first of all, I divided my presentation. I will go very quickly because I know that I have 20 minutes, so later on we can go deeper in some topics. So I will go really fast. So I divided my presentation in two parts. One, it is about my personal experience as artist and why I choose to work with technology. And the other one, the other question is about technology in education. How technology in an educational platform. Let's start with web. So for many years before using technology, I worked with experimental movies. I made sculptures, I made drawings, and as Paula told you, I work with theory. I have a background in art history of art, and I have a master's degree in African literature, which is quite diverse. So at a certain point, I started to think. I felt that I have so many separate things together, going together, and I wondered how to make bridges between all these things. That was a very hard time 20 years ago. So when I was doing my master thesis on oral literature, African oral literature, I started to think if there was a bridge between oral culture and digital culture. It was an intuitive thought. I was not sure of that, but that was year 95. But I started to make research about technology, because I had the feeling that maybe with technology I could make bridges between drawing, sculpture, theory, well, all experimental film, all that. So I had the possibility to go to the Hypermedia Studio. I had great professors there, like George Legrady, many huge professors, great professors there. And I started to work with sensitive environments. And there I found that technology was the bridge that could put all these things together. So, for me, technology was not a starting point, was neither a starting point nor an arriving point. For me, technology was like a subtle platform that could bring everything together. So for me, technology was, and it is, still is, a renderer, a producer, a kind of facilitator, a key enabler, and a cross-cutting strategy. But renderer of what? For me, technology is related to emotions. Basically, it is related to emotions. Someone wrote about my work and said that my work is emotional technology, and I really like that expression. I still use it. But what kind of emotions? For me, what concerns me, it is important for me, are the emotions of robots. I want to create emotional robots, and I want to create visual emotion. For me, it is very important contemplation as a way of knowing the world. I don't really like, but that this is very personal, the playful thing. I'm not, I don't want to create that sort of things. I need contemplation as a way of knowing the world. So, technology for me is enables me to connect with emotional behaviors, emotional experiences that goes across many art languages, supports aesthetics, etc. For me, robotics is a kind of degree zero. It is an epistemological stage. So I will show you some of my works, just 3 works. One of that I made in 2005, the other more recent of 2012, and one of 2010. So I will not talk anymore because it has English subtitles. So.
Proxemia es una instalación robótica interactiva basada en sistemas de multiagentes autónomos en forma de esferas. Se trata de una comunidad de robots que reacciona a la presencia de agentes externos, espectadores, límites físicos u otras esferas. La proxemia, tal como fuera definida por Edward Hall, alude a las observaciones y a las teorías acerca del uso de su espacio por parte del hombre. Hall define 4 esferas en función de las distancias que establecen los individuos entre sí: la esfera íntima, la personal, la social y la pública. El fenómeno de desintegración del otro y el autoconfinamiento en nuestro cuerpo magnificado, como fuera señalado por Baudrillard, está motivado por la nueva configuración de las sociedades modernas. A través de mi instalación me propongo cuestionar estos nuevos paradigmas sociales, no revertirlos, sino generar una reflexión individual en cada espectador acerca de la noción de esta distancia social que progresivamente tiende a evitar al otro. 20 esferas de acrílico de 25 centímetros de diámetro ruedan libremente en el suelo por medio de dispositivos mecánicos. A través de mecanismos sensoriales de posición y de movimiento, las esferas tienden a desviar su trayectoria cuando se produce cualquier contacto físico. Están provistas de un mecanismo capaz de posicionar y de orientar sus piezas y dispositivos internos para que las esferas rueden, detecten la presencia de otros y cambien su trayectoria dependiendo de esta presencia externa. Sus unidades de control incluyen microcontroladores y sensores aptos para percibir el entorno y procesar los cambios que eventualmente tengan lugar en él. En suma, el microcontrolador y los sensores les permiten desplegar comportamientos adaptativos, es decir, cambio de trayectoria. Cada una de ellas posee fuentes lumínicas propias, otorgándoles el aspecto de esferas de luz. 19 de las esferas poseen 2 tipos cromáticos de LEDs, uno azul y otro blanco. Ante el contacto con cualquier escollo físico, se enciende alternativamente uno u otro, al tiempo que la esfera cambia la dirección de su trayectoria. Es decir, el encuentro de cualquier obstáculo, espectador, otra esfera o límites físicos, provoca el cambio de dirección y el cambio de luz. La luz de estas esferas es difusa y concentrada. El material es acrílico blanco translúcido. Solo una esfera, en cambio, presenta un comportamiento distintivo. Está construida en acrílico transparente, lo cual hace visible al robot interno, y posee LEDs blancos y un láser de línea rojo. Su luz es invasiva y se expande al espacio. El láser proyecta líneas en las paredes. Esta esfera representa el elemento diferencial, la minoría que pugna por romper los estándares y la lógica global. El mecanismo se alimenta a través de baterías recargables, con una autonomía promedio de 10 horas. Pasajes, derivas y escenarios diversos dominan nuestra experiencia en el universo de la sociedad de masas. Los territorios privados huyen de toda encrucijada e intersección. La dinámica general instala la metáfora social. Individuos en continuo movimiento, evitando a otros individuos, más concentrados en el movimiento que en el objetivo de estos movimientos. Pero aun si el comportamiento estándar es seguir el movimiento, una minoría, solo una esfera, tratará de padecer las reglas sociales buscando colisionar contra el resto de los agentes. Estas esferas son robots autónomos móviles en un entorno real no estructurado. El entorno, de naturaleza caótica, supone un principio general. El mecanismo total opera bajo condiciones de imprecisión e incertidumbre. El comportamiento global en este sistema autónomo implementa comportamientos parciales, responsables de producir ciertas acciones motrices, cuyo objetivo es lograr un fin particular, apartarse o colisionar contra los obstáculos. El contacto personal, solo un mero roce fortuito, es un momento fugaz y merced a un gesto obsesivo y espontáneo, es decir, alejarse, toda posibilidad de que lo público devenga íntimo o privado queda desterrada. No quiero que me toques, parecen querer decir las esferas al modificar su trayectoria, enunciando así la necesidad de autoconfinamiento en los propios contornos.
I made this work in 2005, and I'm really interested in creating environments. I'm really interested in the space. I don't want a fixed space. I want that my creators, that my robots could create the space, could define the space. I have been working a lot in the last years about the concept of territory, and this is also, it's about territory. I made in 2012. It's a short movie. There is no sound in this. It is a kind of an array of these wooden structures made of lights and fishing lines, and inside that I transferred the diary of Patagonia from Charles Darwin. So, and in front of them there are these magnifying glasses that move around, so the audience could only see the diary of Patagonia by Charles Darwin when the magnifying glass positions just in front of the structure. So this is a part of other work I'm doing based or around the concept of territory and how we define territories. And the last work I will show, and then I will talk a little bit about the master's program. I know that I'm late, but this is a key work for me because this is a work we made at the university. Some years ago, in 2010, there was a great show, a very huge show in Barcelona about the artists who worked with screens during the 70s. So there were Bill Viola, Bruce Nauman, Nancy Pike, well, everybody from the 70s. So the curator of that show asked the master's program, and we have a research team there to work with the University of Pompeu Fabra from Barcelona and the University de Lusófona from Lisboa, Portugal, to work together and to produce a work that could make a dialogue with these guys from the 70s. So we worked during 1 year through a wiki, so we produced a lot of text about that. And finally, we decided that each institution would produce a different work because we have different profiles. We are more based in hardware development rather than software. So we produced this work. What I'm going to show is not What I'm going to show, it's not the exhibition in Barcelona, but an exhibition in Buenos Aires. We produced this work that is called Taxonomy, and we research about producing robots with the screen as part of their nature. Not just to put a screen on them, but we try to think the screen as part of their nature. This is a kind of taxonomy of imaginary species. And there are video sculptures that we see before was a video sculptures. These are a set of 12 robots going around the space, and on the screen what we can see is the videos, endoscopy videos, and there is a robot with a camera. The macho alpha. Well, I don't know.
Alpha male.
Alpha male. The alpha male was there with the camera, and so on the wall we see what the alpha male is seeing. And these are video sculptures. So it was a whole set of different kind of creatures. That's what we call it taxonomy. But for me, this is a great experience because we could do in the context of the university, and we produced a little book about the experience. And the team, the development team, was composed by teachers, students, undergraduate students, grad students. So it was a very interesting experience. We had the chance to show it in a big exhibition that was held in Buenos Aires, an exhibition of Aaron Farotti works, and so they asked us to show these pieces. So we were really proud of that, to share the space with Aaron Farotti. So I will go faster. It's just again to see. Okay. They moved randomly. They were programmed with a random random set of instructions. So it was very interesting to see how sometimes they go together, sometimes they were far from each other, and again that idea of creating space, that the creators themselves create the space. So, and now okay, so number 2. And this, you want to use this instead? Yeah, sure. Sorry. Yeah. She came in. 4 minutes because of this. No, these will not work if I don't try Okay, so to finish, hola. Okay, so to finish number 2, I will speak very quickly, very fast about why technology in the educational program. We designed the master's degree program in 6 years ago. These are our students working, and basically the program we face technology in the sense I pointed out before. It's a kind of platform. It's not our goal to learn technology. Technology is something that we can learn anywhere. It's not a big deal, technology. But we want to think technology at an epistemological stage to develop new strategies of knowing the world. So basically the program is divided in 4 semesters. Each of them has a main axis, a main goal that organizes contents, strategies, etc. First semester is related to time, second to space, third to movement, and the fourth, I call it thesis is coming. So we dedicated 4 semesters for the thesis, because what I saw that is that when you do a master's degree, then when you finish it, you have to start with the thesis. It's like falling in the emptiness. So I prefer to work a whole semester around the thesis. During the last years, many interests appear. I try to make a brief of the main interest, and I will show you 2 works. I have many works, but if you want, I can show it later. One of the main interests is robotics and sustainable systems. There are many students working around this issue. Ana Laura Cantera is one of them, and she's working with organic energy, and she's transforming organic energy into electrical energy, and she's working in this kind of, she makes many objects. She creates this organic material. She made many experiments to reach this material that produces electricity. So she's working with nests of ants. She's making a project with organic bricks, and this is her thesis, her project for the thesis. I will go faster. Lupita Chavez from Mexico. She's very interested in how plants communicate. So this is a work for the 2nd semester, and she's reading the energy of plant and translating it into code that connects to a telegraphic machine. So just a short video. Each semester the students produce a prototype, and this is a kind of work. So this line of interest, I call it robotics and translation. And she made a very nice project in a gallery space where she used the plants on the wall, and she installed, she set all the system. And this is the telegraphic system traducing translating the. So, and finally, there is an interest in robots as performers. So this is a work from Mariela Yeregui, also from Mexico, and this is a robot. She made this work for the third semester. Okay. Yeah, I know it's my time, so. To finish, I will say that for us, for me as a creator, and in the context of the master program, the autonomous systems are not our final purpose. For us, autonomous systems pervade art strategies to build new ways of addressing consistent questions about our political, social, aesthetical context. Thank you.
I'm going to say something. Last week I went to a symposium at the MIT Media Lab, and it was awful, the technology and this system. So we're doing really good. This is just like nothing. Look, I just take out the batteries and the Robotics Symposium, what do you want? Okay, I'm going to introduce Gustavo Crembil, and I'm going to let him also set up here for his talk. Okay, so while he set up, I'm going to introduce him. Gustavo Crembil. His practice draws from the field of design, architecture, craft, performance art, communication, and political activism. He received a professional architect diploma at the Universidad Nacional de Córdoba, Argentina, and a Master of Architecture at Cranbrook Academy of Art. Fulbright scholar, he has been granted fellowship by Fundación Antorchas in Argentina, UNESCO, the World Studio, among many other scholarships. He initiated and directed a new media art graduate program at Universidad Blas Pascal in Argentina, in Córdoba. And in 2004, he served as a guest architect in resident of the Graduate Architecture Department at Cranbrook Academy of Art. Currently, he is an assistant professor of architecture at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. His work has been widely published in Design Revolution 100 Project that are changing the world, from the ground up innovative green homes and the Journal of Architecture Education. He has exhibited at MoMA, Cranbrook Academy of Art Museum, and the Dutch Design Week in Netherlands. In 2006, his partnership with Lynch, an architect Lynch, called DAM, was a finalist at the Young Artist Program at PS1, MoMA, a competition that recognized emergent architectural voices from the Museum of Modern Art. He was awarded in collaboration with me a production grant from VIDA 14.0, our artificial life competition, Telefonica Foundation, Spain. And recent events include participation in the Renew Conference in Copenhagen, the Transition MX Mediation Festival, and now Crembil lives and work in Troy, New York. And again, it's a pleasure to have him here, my other mentor.
Okay, I think we're fine. I'm not going to be using any sound. Yeah, okay. Hello. First, of course, I want to thank Adetty and Paula for the invitation, and also thank Casey for the nice host today picking me up. I'm very happy to be here, and for me it's an opportunity to think back certain issues that I've been left for a while. I'm currently dedicated to an academic life in the field of architecture. But even though as Paula was saying on my presentation, I kind of drift a lot, you know. Probably that's a good way to think on what tactics mean. So for me, the tactical express the option to work within the fissures of within the fissures of the disciplinary discourse. You know, how do you escape from those kind of boundaries that define certain processes and expects certain responses. On the other hand, when we talk about technology, I didn't know that I was doing art until I had to put, for the first time, somebody helped me to put together a portfolio, and then suddenly I realized I have a body of work. It was just shit that I did. and I'm saying this not in simple terms. When I was your age, I grew up in Argentina at the moment of the democratic spring, and it was for me being a student at the time. I mean, I lost like 4 or 5 years of education at the time because basically it was so much going on that absorbed me. And at that time I also discovered. I was drifting. I was studying film, studying art, doing performance, producing rock groups. So it was a constant shifting between disciplines, and for me it was not such a difference. What I was doing. Of course, I dropped out of school. But anyway, I always had interest on making, on things that actually exist outside myself. And these are going to be some example of the work I've been doing. This is a project I did with conceptual artist Ted Naughton, who's a jeweler, one of the most important Dutch jewelers. We were invited to do a joint residency at the European Ceramic Work Center, where I've been a couple of times. And I always have an interest on craft. When I say craft, really, weaving, ceramics, wood, things that you put together. So somehow that is technology. But I'm interested in craft because it's shared knowledge. You build up on traditions. You build up on something that's being repeated. This is a process of exploration and a series of how actually you articulate. These are architectural problems. How do you shift from the stereotomic, which is basically the block, into the tectonic, which is the weave, the carpentry. And this is somehow questioning the notion of the brick. This is all in ceramics, which is usually done, it's massive, built up by weight, and grows in something that is light and three-dimensional, And then from there, it started to work in crossing with other way of thinking, probably, articulating much more of this relation between those things that are tied by weight, by gravity, and those things that actually are aiming for the height, for lightness. But at the same time, here is also a second interest, which I cross this idea of reaching for a kind of technological hybridity, is the dialogue between very low techniques, processes, like in this case, ceramic casting is a very ancient way of building, making, Basically, I just want to go back. We're making bases, casting. Also the same thing that you would use to make a base. Into complex walls, but also crossing at the same time, digital thinking. How do you? And I'm interested in this collision between something that is very, very low and something that is very, very high. How do you don't even care about resolving them, you just smash them together. And in that regard, and this furthering with the idea of weaving, there is also, in the previous project, which is a project that built up from the unit, what we call in architecture is a unit problem. Basically you make a thing and then you try to assemble it and how it combines and how actually tessellate, how it disperses. But also there is another question: is how do we tessellate? How do we grow from something that is unit to the multiple? How do we grow from the personal body, the individual body, into the social body? How do we meet the outside for self, but also the outside for disciplines? How do we meet life? This is a project that I did, and this is I was in Argentina and during the latest crisis, or the one previously, the one now. 2001, 2002, basically the country collapses, the financial dissolves. I'm in Argentina at the moment, and somehow, we start to work with friends, organize a collective that operated under something that we call social technology, but now it's more used to describe processes like Facebook. But platforms like Facebook and that sort of things, but on social media. But in this case, we'll describe it, how do we use technology actually for something that is beyond itself. In this case, how do we put design, not to make it evident to what it is, for basically to solve a problem, but actually how to use this design in a larger social context. In this case, we're working with two different chess groups. The idea was to kind of bring political awareness and build up political skills in different chess groups. We work with a group of paper scavengers, which I'm not going to show the project, and a group of rural basket weavers in a very isolated area of the city of the province of Cordoba. And what we brought there is, initially we were invited there for a foundation, kind of to help them to improve their products. They use, it's basically a self-sustainable life. They farm a bit, they have some goats, and they make this product, these goods that they exchange for or try to sell to get enough cash that they need. But basically, they get in the exchange they don't bargain well. So we were brought there to help them to develop a product that could bypass the intermediaries and reach maybe design studios, design stores, sorry. And we also brought there kind of another thing, you know, because when they start to deal with us, they have to organize themselves, they have to find themselves how to negotiate, how to build up a consensus, who are the leaders, and we try to trace who are the masters, and so on. And we brought a problem to them, how to build something that it was larger than them. And we were very interested on, and this has to do with, we were looking at the work of, I won't pronounce her name, it's a Russian mathematician working at Cornell that for a couple of years, a decade ago, I think, she was the first kind of theorist that was able to build a model of the hyperbolic plane. You know, the hyperbolic plane. Probably you're familiar with the crochet reef project. You know, been shown in some TED talks. Basically, it was the first time that something that existed mathematically, it was able to be built. And it was built through crochet. This is one per model. We were kind of working in parallel, not that we really know what we were doing. We just figured it out that by, if you keep, you know, connecting a circular band, you start to generate something that at one moment is so complex in his algorithm, if you will, that in one moment, by excess, you start to ripple. You know, that's what happened with plants, with lettuce, or with when you rip a bag, that you start to undulate in the edges. We carry this project into a proposal that we presented for the PS1 MoMA, which is in my field, as in architecture. It's a very important competition here in the United States. It kind of gives you the opportunity to experiment under the protection of an institution with structures that otherwise are hard to build. We propose kind of what we call the pleasure garden. It was kind of a place for the urbanites, New York urbanites, to linger, and you know, we'll have this. It was a kind of revision of the Arcadian need. There was a forest, a meadow, and a grotto. And in the forest was built, you know, it was constructed by a series of these umbrellas, basically. The weavers call it the flowers, but the flowers were the umbrellas, paraguas. That will connect and create this forest, you know, across this main big plaza in PS1 MoMA. And defining the, you know, this place of shade, and underneath it will be a series of areas for people to see it. At the same time, in Argentina, we started to work with with the other collective, the paper scavengers, who have another byproduct in their scavenging, from the scavenging, which is were plastic bottles. So we proposed them, and we tried to connect these two economies, proposed them to build and construct this large umbrella. And basically, the cartoneros will collect the plastic, and we will provide them with a tool that will allow you to strip a thin piece of plastic, a strip, that then could be woven, you know, into panels to build up, you know, this umbrella. We use this, and we made one of them, which this collective use them, you know, in many other places, kind of to promote their cause and to actually to promote their products and bring them media attention. This is the first prototype of a very simple tool. There are many variations of this tool. I mean, we didn't invent it. Actually, we kind of saw somebody doing it, and we kind of, how can we hack this? You know, we couldn't get in contact, and actually they have hacked it, you know, from somebody else. The tool came actually from the gauchos, which is a tool to strip leather. You know, we were, you know, basically taking PET plastic, and that's the work that got incorporated into these kind of, you know, kind of clothes that are changing people's lives, which is quite pretentious. But you know, I was together with you know, with a lot of quite significant projects that are really changing people. Then, how much time? Okay, I have. Okay, so we kept translating this, and this is just work with my students here. You know, keep this. There is an entire process of kind of recursion in these forms, and keep working with my students here at Rensselaer, at RPI, where I teach. Kind of keep further exploring this idea of complexity in the surface, and I'm taking them, you know, a couple of time into conferences and working with the students in this case in Iquitos in Peru, you know, kind of revising the relationship with the environment and probably adapting it with local techniques. These are absolutely just very quick sketches of possibilities. And in Macapá, in another conference in Brazil, when kind of looking at kind of driftwood, it was asked for the municipality to start to think also for large canopies. But the principles are the simple, of how something that is, you know, start from a simple form, start to evolve and generate a form by itself. I will just quickly go through this, so otherwise I won't have time. The ceramic work that I was showing before also had another component. I would say, you know, one of the main issues that I'm interested in is craft. The other is one kind of, as I would say, craft. This idea of craft as shared knowledge. But also I'm interested in urbanism. And in urbanism there is a lot of the type of urbanism is also, I'm interested in tactical urbanism. You can recognize things like non-planned communities, favelas, or how do we really build those cities? You know, not the modernistic organized plan, you know, of the that we have, you know, idealized it. This case, and I don't have the drawings here. It's actually it was a project that it rose from. It was just a stamp, you know, literally a stamp. That I was stamping colonial maps as a way of critique certain ways. It's also drawing, critiquing certain ways of occupation that were derived from the colonization of South America. And then I just went and scaled it up dramatically. I went from something that was this big. Well, let's just make it, you know, 2 meters, you know, long. And these are very complex pieces to make in ceramics. You know, again, it's basically a base. Here I'm using a coil around a central mold. And this is that piece of fire. And it's supposed to, they interlock, they connect. You see here, this is a smaller version. They basically, I call it Romeo and Juliet. It has a more nasty name. They connect and lock each other. But it's this idea of, you know, extension, something that can be organized again without, you know, that is kind of just by stepping forward. You know, there's a logic that is on the growth. You know, the organization is not something that you predict, but actually that it will happen. This will somehow be in the back of the work, of my work that I may share just a little bit of the work that we are doing with Paula. And again, it seems that we all in South America are obsessed with balls, with figures. This is in the left. There is a plan, original plan for an installation it's a sound installation that you will. This was a kind of a scheme done, a while back, 20 years ago, more than that. At the Hyper-V Studio was an installation, a sound installation. They will transverse to different spaces of sound, and sounds. Basically, you will DJ the sound through crossing this. And the second variation here is an adaptation that we did in Córdoba, in Argentina, with kind of called the foreign object, an object that you move through a market, capturing different types of signals, radio signals that were being broadcasted by DJs at the moment. And this brings to this. I will also take a few minutes, which is the installation that we are trying to develop with Paula, which is built up on certain ideas of mestizaje. We're working on this notion from mestizo robotics. We're working on the idea of the Mayan myth of creation. One of the many steps that the gods does to create man is they create the man of dirt, of mud, somebody who doesn't, which is an attempt of creation of mankind that fails. Basically, they have no consciousness, then they collapse, and they crumble. So these are robots that are they're not that smart. When they move, they actually start to crumble. They start to collapse. They are, very similar to in their concept to Mariela's project has a kind of a device in the interior that makes this gyroscope. They are very large, and they're covered by this cake of the cake on dirt that is dry, and when they roll, they start to basically break down. We took at one moment that project and to confront and critique our ideas, because it's very simple for us to think these concepts out in the isolation of our studios here at in the north. We took it very bravely and said, well, we want to fabricate the first prototype, and we went straight in the middle to the Amazon to build the first one, which I would say was a challenge. It works and it didn't work. It works in a dimension we never imagined, and it fails in those things that we thought we got it right. And mostly we were looking for craftsmen who can actually do the outside, and we encountered way much more. An idea now that we are working is that is taking this project that originally was an installation in a classic art installation where you will have these balls, in a space, and this is one glass, to kind of a territorial installation, where instead of having these balls in an enclosed art space, now they will be dispersed, across the continent, and they will interact among themselves. But also at the same time, the invitation is to not just the balls, the spheres interact among themselves, but also they will be different and built by different communities. So each one of them will have their own identity. Again, that's all I have. Thank you.
I'm going to introduce our next artist. Our next artist scholar is Arcangelo Constantini. He is an independent artist and curator. His work centers around artificial life technologies, technological hack, the design of new interfaces and devices, and environmentally engaged art. The link between art processes and technology is central to his artistic and curatorial practice. Constantini recycles obsolete technological devices into highly sophisticated systems, redefining these ideas and artifacts in artistic context as a means to give physical and conceptual meaning to objects and events in his use. Constantini's art belongs to a class of emerging Latin American artists that integrate high and low technologies, materials and processes with the intention of designing. Can you hear me? Lost the mic. Right? All right. So Constantini's art belongs to a class of emerging Latin American artists that integrates high and low technological materials, processes with intention of designing and building their own technologies by situating computation in new cultural and material contexts, and by developing tools that democratize engineering. Constantini is the new media curator of exhibitions and events at the Cyber Lounge at the Tamayo Contemporary Art Museum in Mexico City. The museum is dedicated to the former private collection of artist Rufino Tamayo and ongoing contemporary artworks. Constantini's works has been exhibited in the most prominent national and international art museums and galleries, festivals, and electronic art venues around the world, in the United States, in Spain, Peru, Brazil, Australia, and many other places. In fact, after the symposium, he's headed out to Moscow. Constantini received the Rockefeller MacArthur Grant in 2002. In 2007, he was awarded the prestigious grant Vida 11.0 for Art and Artificial Life competition granted by Fundación Telefónica in Spain. Constantini is a global citizen, but he lives and works in Mexico City. So please help me welcome him.
Hello. Thank you very much for... Okay, yeah. I look nice. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here in Texas, and Paula, Adetty, and all of you, and also the possibility to meet the other artists and all the talks we are having. Presentation will be around an issue I've been researching in the last years. Okay, I've been working around the subject of water, the molecule, all the hypotheses that surround it. That it's, I think, art is an important issue that it can relate to different aspects of society, to different aspects of technology, science, of mysticism, of and to generate and create new speculative hypotheses about surrounding it. Every time there are new things and new approaches to understand the magnificence of these molecules, from astrophysics to biological to electromagnetic to the frequency perception, memory, consciousness. And first of all, I would like to talk about this project that I built in memoriam of Priamo Lozada. He was a good friend in Mexico, curator. He has a terrible accident in Venice Biennale during the exhibition of Rafael Lozano Gemer, another Mexican artist that's working a lot with urban spaces. But he has this accident, and he was curator of Laboratorio Arte Alameda, one of the main spaces in Mexico for art and technology, or the intersection. It was a convent, this museum, and it became the main spot in Mexico for this kind of research. And we did a concert in memoriam to say goodbye to this character, to this friend that was very intense and bright person. And the approach I did to this concert was this experimental performance piece I called Aqua Electrical Plasma. It's a replica of an experiment done by before the end of 19. It's an experiment of Eldridge and Sandhill from 1898. This a system that processes the transformation and generation of emergent energy using water and carbon electrodes and electricity. I will show you that. With water, and it has two electrodes, and I send in a big amperage. They used to light cities in the past with this plasma arc, and it's four state of matter. No, this plasma is making an electrolysis in water, creating COH2, explosive gas, separating the molecules of oxygen and nitrogen from water. The intention of the work is, in memory, is about these bright people, no? That it has illuminated a lot of us, and it's about all this transformation of energy, no? We call about these subtle energies, about these physical energies, about these, at the end, that this has an explosion, no? Because it was accumulating this gas. And gas, I have another voltaic arc in front, and it make an ignition. We got this explosion, like for us was like that his disease, no? Like next day wasn't with us, no? And in the 2006, he invited me to do an exhibition in the city of Puebla in Mexico, in La Constancia. It's one of the first fabrics of textiles in Latin America. This was a factory abandoned that they recovered it for a cultural center, and he invited many artists to commission pieces for this place. And I proposed him one of the main issues I was concerned about this factory was about the pollution. All this machinery in the past were activated by the flow of water, no? By the movement of water from the electrical engines to the first physical process. And there was a river in this factory, and the river was like a sewage, no, with terrible contaminated water, no. And I proposed first was a robotic project, but it was this 206, and it was very complex to build it in that time. And it was like a castle of cards. You pick up one card and you can do it. So this was Plan B for the exhibition, and I did this piece about spark plug. No? Spark plugs are the main component of internal combustion engines. It provides the electricity that make the ignition of the fuel oil, no? the gasoline. This is the first vehicle and the first that used the combustion engine from Isaac de Rivas in 1808. And this internal combustion engine uses a very special fuel. No? It uses hydrogen. 200 years ago, there was the first vehicle that was moving, was exploding hydrogen with high voltage electricity. So it's very complex about the states of water, no? The hydrological cycle, all these problematics now we have with the global warming. It's about the main issue is with the hydrological cycle. No, it's the ice caps are stopping, they are melting, and they are stopping like to produce more ice. No, and the main problem is about the emission of the contaminants and gases. No, the internal combustion engine is not really efficient. No, it's like 20–30% of the consumption of energy is used to move the car. The other 70% is heat and is gases that contaminate and trap the ultraviolet rays. And well, this is the piece I built is like a screen, it's a matrix that use spark plugs. It used 300 spark plugs that are provided energy with these transformers that rise. Each one is 100,000 volts, and it uses 1 million volts to activate the piece. And it's a matrix of telation. It's 3 by 3. There's 9 spark plugs that are activated individually, each one. And it was set up. Well, first was in the La Constancia, and this is the Laboratorio Alameda. And I put this box where, like in churches, you put coins, no? And when you put a coin, it has electronic that makes senses. It sends temperature, it sends humidity, and it sends CO2 emissions. And from that variable, it starts a cycle that starts to make that spark, no? You start to see these sparks and hear them, and there's a block of ice in front of the piece. And what you see in the sparks is simulations of states of water. No? You see a simulation of rain, or you see a simulation of water vapor or crystals. No? Another piece I built as a commission was this called Inductocore. Inductocore is based on a mantric machine from the Tibet that is the prayer wheels. It's a 1,000 years machine that all the practitioners of Buddhism spin. It's a cylinder with a Sanskrit mantra that is the Om Mani Padme Hum. This mantra is about the desire for the other beings to be well, the desire for the other beings to get illuminated. It's not a selfish desire, it's for the others. And people in practitioners, they desire this, and they chant it, no, Om Mani Padme Hum, and they spin the cylinder, and inside the cylinder the monks write it in Sanskrit and in paper, and they put it thousands of times in a spin inside. That is all the turns is a planetary spin. And so this is a machine that transports this subtle energy, no? The desire for the Earth to be good. The machine expands this energy and provides it to the world. So this is a 5 machines that are integrated in a group. In the middle one there is the prayer wheel with the Sanskrit Om Mani Padme Hum, and this is the right is all the papyrus with all the mantras written inside the cylinder. In the machine there's a triangle with 3 cogs and the central cog, and there's this chain that people start to spin with a mechanic force, and the mechanic force is turned, that cog has the mantra cut with laser, and below there are 3 motors, no? So with that mechanical movement, the people are interacting with the machine, they are generating electrical energy, no? One of these electrical energy is used for this cylinder that is filled with water, and there inside are 5 cylinders of steel, and it's called a josel. No? It's about experiment on 0-point energy, all this harvesting of energy, about all these possibilities of water and electrolysis and separation of hydrogen and oxygen, and this is separating the hydrogen and oxygen with this electricity. No? Another of the cogs, it's provide energy to an amplifier, and in the top of each of the machines there is a speaker, periponeo, and what you listen when you are spinning and the energy provides to the amplifier, you hear the sinusoidal wave of the electricity. No? You hear like a kind of a frequency depending on the speed you spin and the hydrogen that is generated by the electrolysis is sent to the central machine. In top of it there is a hydrogen cell, and the other machine is filling a capacitor. So the idea is about synergy, no? About the collective interaction, no? The collective input of energy that try to talk about the necessity to transform the consumption of energy in the planet. No? All these extreme energy producers, it has to change because we are in a point, a breaking point. No? Now in the ONU has been a big debate about these issues. So this is in Ducto. This is another piece I did in Portugal in a residence called Magnetoplankton. It's about intuition, about perception. It's plankton. It's a term derived from Latin, no? Both magnes, the magnetic, and the planktos. Planktos is a wonder, no? All the animal life and vegetal life, zooplankton and phytoplankton that lives in the seas, that they have no control of their environment. They just live there, no? And now there are a lot of research about these microorganisms that are generating a magnetic, no? They are generating like a compass, so they can reach the north and go below in the sea or to the mud, and a lot of plants and animals have these magnetites to orientate themselves, no? So this it's a lab specimen that is in these basals. This is the installation. I finished it, and inside these vessels there's living a magnetic organism, a robot. I make a hysteresis. Hysteresis is the magnetic memory of metals. When you put them in a field, extreme field of DC electricity, the orientation of the electrons, you saturate these magnetic properties, and it releases it and keep it percentage, and it's the magnetic property of these elements. No? So I built these robots of steel, and they put it in the magnetizer, and it's like a touch, no, that you give them, just like a microsecond of electricity, and they keep this memory. And they are living inside this vessel, and they're surrounded by a variable magnetic field, no? And this magnetic field makes the robot to react to their environment, no? It's like a deterministic idea of the cause and effect, and then causing some knocking in the crystal, they produce the magnetic field, so it's a feedback loop, no, in the organism. And the people in the installation, they use these microscopes. There was water samples from a river with plankton, and you use a microscope that in the front of the microscope they have an electromagnet, no? So when you try to watch this specimen, the specimen reacts to you, no? Because you approach another field and it reacts to this field, and it can give a condition about what is life, no? This is the flow of hysteresis. There's a video. But in those 2006, for this exhibition that Priamo Lozada invited me, and I did Sparkle Group, this was the project I proposed in the first time, that I got the support from Vida Fundación Telefónica to develop. It's a work in progress. I'm trying to get funding of it because it starts to develop and grow a lot of where I want to reach. This is the river in the factory, and this was the first prototypes I was doing. It was recycling tires of vehicles, of toys. And the small one, the black one, is the mother, and this is the son. How it evolved. No, and it has so many issues. This is in Xochimilco, Mexico City. It used to be a lake, and these are the famous canals, no? That they provide. They construct islands in water, no? That is floating, and they're still in the south of the city. It's a great place for farming, and I was taking the nanodrisas there because also it's very polluted. No? Also there is a big problem with the pollution. And I used to have one of these as a lab. My idea is to build it with a solar system and use it. These were the tests I did in Xochimilco, but the idea is that there are going to be 13 of these robots, no, to make an enjambre. Well, the name of the project is Nanodrisa, from nanotechnology, and Nanodrisa is mothership, no? So it's a modular project, no? It's a project that is a vessel that all the technology that could be contained in it evolves through time, no? And the idea about Nanodrisa is that now we have the sensors to measure problematics, to measure variables of water like dissolved oxygen or pH or temperature. There are big sensors, no? Every time they are making more specific sensors, and now they're using nanotechnology process to make the sensors. But the idea is about nanobots, no? In the future, they're going to construct more robots molecular size that can detect problematics and that can act to that problematics, no? It's about all this speculative fiction related to science. And the project has many different systems, no? The object system, the energy system, for energy harvesting, the propulsion, the sound system, monitor system, nanobiotic system, visualization. The object, it has the shape of unidentified flying object. Not yet, it's EPON, no? Now. It's a very classic, but in one way, because it relates to this fiction, no? To this speculative idea of terraforming planets or this big smaller ships that will have smaller ships inside. And but also it's a perfect object to put solar cells, no? For the energy harvesting, and also for flotation, and also for controlling them. It has a GPS, no? They know their exact position. The idea is that they make a democratic, in the mesh, they choose a leader, the leader sends them it's about all fusion logic, no? They make these semantic questions, no? Who I am, what I do, or why I do it, no? And they send their GPS information and all try to keep the group together, no? And they are sensing the conditions. Each one has its own sensor, and they are all transforming what they sense into data that is interpreted as sound activity, no? That try to communicate with the environment. They are trying to be a holistic system, no? That try to be part of the full environment. Well, it has a lab, no? The main idea of the project is to reach all these areas in Mexico and different countries that have problematics with the rivers, problematic with the lakes, problematic with water, and try to communicate, because the project is about communication. Each one of the nanodrisas has a video camera, so it has a first-person view of people can wear like Google glasses to see what they are seeing, and that data that they are sensing is sent back to the individual, and it can transform the visualizations. Was a video? So that's it.
Okay, everyone. We have one more presentation tonight. I'm very pleased to introduce. Hello? Mark? I'm very pleased to introduce Guto Nobrega. Guto earned his PhD from the School of Art and Media at the University of Plymouth in the UK, where he developed his research under the supervision of Professor Roy Ascott, the very famous Professor Roy Ascott. Nobrega's work centers on transdisciplinary research in the field of art, science, and nature, in which he investigates how the confluence of these domains inform the creation of new aesthetic experiences. Nobrega teaches at the Universidad Federal de Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, where he currently directs the Nucleus of Art and New Organism, or the Nano Lab. The Nano Core Laboratory is a unique lab in Latin America for the development of experimental cybernetic art projects. For the last years, nano artists and scholars have been developing their artistic projects on the processes of creating artificial interfaces connected with natural and organic elements, experimenting on possible hybridization, interaction, presence, and context in telematic environments. Guto Nobrega's work has been presented widely in exhibitions and conferences, such as the International Symposium of Electronic Art in Singapore, the University of Quebec in Montreal, the University of Applied Arts, the Bio Festival, and the International Institute of Biophysics in Germany, among others. His book, Thinking Hyperorganisms, Art, Technology, Coherence, Connectedness, and the Integrative Field, was recently published by Lambert Academy in the UK. Please welcome Dr. Guto Nobrega.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Adetty. Thank you, Paula, for the invitation, University of North Texas. So it's my second time in Texas, so it's a pleasure to be here. So especially in this situation, to be able to share with my colleagues, so such a great artists and thinkers. So what I'm going to discuss here, I'm going to present is part of a theoretical thinking, part of my research, the theoretical part of the research and part of the practice. That has to do with, in theory, the coupling of plants and artificial systems in the context of art. So the talk is going to start with the process of invention. The technical object that the artwork, as the result of such a process, resonates to the artist and the observer as a mode of entangled synergies. The technical object, in his book on the mode of existence of technical objects, the French philosopher Simon Bon claims that the technical object should be understood as an individual, which cannot be reduced to just utilitarian functions. For Simon Bon, the technical object is found in between its most abstract form, the idea, the scheme, and the concept. So that's the idea maybe where it starts in terms of the mental process, and the technical object in the middle of something that will be the natural object. It's the most concrete form, not in the sense to be built and finished, but in the sense that it's coherent in itself. So it's the biological living organism. Technology, in Simon Bon's view, is a process of invention in which a technical object acquires individuation through a process termed concretization. As more concrete the technical object becomes, more the internal units and functions converge to operate in a coherent way, sharing functionalities becoming more sophisticated in some sense. This sort of convergence is found in nature, optimized in the living organism, where all functional elements are overdetermined in the end. Concretization and individuation, in Simon Bon's term, refers to the way technical objects become coherent. Individuation might be understood as an integrative process of convergence in which a given technical object and its structural elements work in synergy to form a coherent whole. By the process of concretization, the technical object becomes to resemble a natural object, but at the end, it will only resemble a natural object as they move towards concretization, where the natural living beings are complete from the very beginning. Even the most concrete technical object, there will remain an amount of an abstraction. A subsequent question arising from this idea is, what if, when a living being and a technical object are set together as a hybrid organism? Still, according to Simon Bon, machines should oppose to a man, for both are part of the same system. As in the process of invention, machines are informed in the sense of bringing to form by man, in the same way man's view of the world is shaped by machines through the way of doing. In that sense, a dialogue between nature and machines should be reinforced through the process of invention. In addition, machines will become more efficient in their doing as their margin of indetermination increases. Simon Bon criticized automatism, for the degree of perfection, technicity of machines does not lie in the increasing and improving of the automatism. In order to make machines automatic, it's necessary to sacrifice many of its functional possibilities and many of its possible uses, Simon Bon says. According to Simon Bon, in such a margin of indetermination that allows for the machine sensitivity to outside information, the pure automatic machine is a closed system. On the contrary, machines with superior technicity is an open machine that incorporates man as a permanent organizer and as a living interpreter of the interrelationship of machines. This may shed some light on our initial question. What if when a living being and a technical object are set together as a hybrid organism? So it comes to the practice, coping plants and machines. In the context of art practice, for decades we have witnessed the move from creation of closed to open systems. This move promotes the observer as a fundamental part of the artwork-observer complex, in which the observer, through its process of fruition, activates the system he is engaging with. The observer is one of who will address meaning to the system, which in turn should have a considerable margin of indetermination to incorporate the observer presence and inquiry. When art plays with the construction of systems technologically assisted, the concept of indetermination becomes truly important. When nature is brought into dialogue with machines, especially in the context of art, together they perform as a system with many layers of complex, which brings in it several levels of indetermination. If machines, as Simondon suggests, moves toward nature in the process of concretization, coupling nature and machines into a single being, it directs the evolutionary vector of machines and even nature into new possibilities. They become an integrated whole, opening ways towards the hybrid ecology of beings. Such a complex system is empowered by layers of meaning potentially open to the observer's experience. They ask not just for interaction in order to become transparent to the observer's fruition, but they invite us to engage in a present dialogue so that through the process of getting to know one another, they may express the way of being. So that's the proposal of this relationship, where you have the idea of this hyper-organism in the middle, and the idea of this static organism as something that comes out of this relationship, not previous to that, but something that may rise from this relationship as an experience. To the observer, the experience of such a system is the experience of several parts in the way an affective bond may develop between the observer and the system's synergy. Creation of affective bonds. Which sort of bonds would it be? Let's consider firstly, in such a hybrid system, its artificial purpose that has been analyzed so far under Simondon's concept of technical objects. According to Simondon, we are able to create technical beings because we have within ourselves an interplay of relationships and a matter-form association which is remarkably analogous to that which we establish in the technical objects in the process of invention. So the relationship between thought and life is analogous to the relationship between a structured technical object and the natural environment. The individualized technical object is an invented object, one that is a product of the interplay of the current causality between life and thought in them. Still, invention, which is the creation of an individual, presupposes an intuitive knowledge of the technicality, technicity of elements in the inventor. Invention takes place on a middle level between the concrete and the abstract, the level of diagrams which implies an earlier existence and a coherence for its representation. You could say that the process of invention reflects on a state of resonance between the dynamics of the internal mental and physical operation of the inventor, the artist in this case, and that of the object being invented, considering as well possible synergies on the mind of the observer. So the triad, so the artist, the observer, and the artwork. From this perspective, it could be suggested that the creation of art objects corresponds to the intervention of coherent wholes that are linked to the artist by their internal resonance. In Simondon terms, the awareness to that internal resonance is called affect. Therefore, we could say that the creation of artworks may imply the activation of affective bonds. Interaction, in this sense, might be reviewed in terms of an affective interconnection or interaffectivity, as I'm proposing. It would not be seen dependent exclusively on aspects of reciprocal action between man and machine in the technical level, but between levels of resonance. An affective level which entangles the artist's artwork observer complex to promote the emergence of an integrative coherent whole, of which the artwork could be thought as a hyperorganism. Hyperorganic ecology. I'm going to show some work as an illustration of some works that I developed specifically in this field of hybrids with plants. This is the first one. It's called the equilibrium. It's a work that is a piece that has a solar cell, and it was thought as a kind of conversation between this living organism and the artificial one. We have the solar cell on the front, so that receives the light and produces energy that feeds the artificial system, and place the plant towards the light. So I like the idea that it is being related one another in the sense that they are being fed by the light. And another point is that when the observer comes to this approach to the piece, it kind of avoids the presence of the observer somehow. And I really like that because it's a kind of critique of interactivity or interaction, in the sense that it's supposed that through interaction we receive something back as a kind of response and feedback. And I like the group of avoiding the person somehow. Another piece was breathing. Breathing is art piece based on this relationship between the plant and the artificial system. It works with the sensing the leaves for conductivity of electricity, and it takes these data, sends these values to the Arduino, to the microcontroller that controls light on top of this, lights in the center, like the heart of this piece, and the light is conducted to the extremities of the piece through fiber optics. And another thing is that there is a movement. It's all custom made, all the things, the electrodes, and I like the view to get this piece where I find it. So like a salad bowl, and this electrode is made of things that you put in the hair to fix the hair. I don't know the name of it. But I mean, so it's what works better for me. So, and as you see, the legs is an inverted umbrella. I think maybe because I was living in UK and a lot of rain every day, and I was missing the sun from Brazil. But anyway, I knew that I would do something with the umbrella, and what I need to do was to invert the position of the wires, and I got this kind of spider legs. There is this small video just to see a little bit how it works. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. This botanic is another piece that's taken from this point where I was reading these signals from the plant. I decided to put in two different leaves in the way that I could give have a kind of direction for this interaction. So, say if we interact with one part of the plant or one side of the plant or another, you will drive the robot, and you can see it moving towards you. And so the pieces again with these electrodes that reading the conductivity on the leaves. There is part of the work is artificial controlled by this light sensor. So when you are not interacting with the piece, the robot goes to the light and stay under the light. So if you interact with the piece, suddenly the robot comes in your direction, and depending on the position you are, so if you stop, return to the light. I think I got a problem with the videos, so I will not be able to show the videos, unfortunately, but maybe you can take it. No, I think it's when I put it here, so it became a frame, so, but maybe I can show. Yes, yeah, but just what about the time can try to open it. So, the project I'm working currently is called Telebiosphere. The idea is that from this interactivity with the plant, I just thought it would be possible to create two biospheres to be remotely positioned. So like one of I didn't mention that, but one of the research subjects of the NANO, that's this lab that I coordinate, is telematics and hybrids. So we are very focused on telematics in a way we try to understand what is the potential of telematics, not just from the point of view of technology, but what means exactly being connected, the state of being connected, and how to bring visibility for those possibilities of connection. So, and how to visualize these connectivity, not just in terms of data visualization, but have the sense of being connected, especially in the sense of affection. So the idea is to create this dome where when I place myself inside one dome, so the kinetic will take construct a model of my image, and will project another dome and otherwise. So and the differential is that the image will be transformed by the interaction with the plant. The plant will be the interface. So when you interact with the plant, this image will be changed in the sound, and you see this happen in both biospheres. Of course, the influence of Mr. Fuller, that's really important, and I really like his work, so it's an inspiration. We try, the moment we start developing the project, it's funny how the project goes everywhere. So we start a project like we are talking, and so suddenly just starting, and this is a project that was done with help of the students, so in the context of the lab. So it's a collaboration with the Faculty of Architecture. So we developed this workshop intensivity, and so the ideas went to this direction, but at the end we create this structure based on some of the works we have been seeing, and that is the shape. And we decided just to make it more complicated, to make this part in the middle interactive. It's not supposed to be there, but so it's being a pain just thinking about this. I'm here and I'm thinking that I'll be showing this in Brazil, and we got troubles with that. But anyway, this is the dome. It uses this pole system, that's a mirror projection. It works like that. So this particle, it will build up a kind of figure based on your position. So Kinetic will have to create this skeleton, and this particle will be a man in the future. So the mirror works pretty well. This is the higher. So in there is new figures that are, if you see the higher, here's I'm showing some tests with the skeleton. Just to finish, because we have the hydrogen to interact with the biosphere. So the hydrogen works with 4 data. It's humidity, temperature, light, and the galvanic skin response. So this is the structure to make it work, and I think you're going to get there. And this is the prototype for the hyperboards. That's this guy. I decided to put all the sensors together in a creature that I'm calling hyperboard, and it helps to connect with the structure to collect data and send to a server that make available this data to any place in the world. So this is the visualization. And that's the second part of the work, where I want to create a wearable and to walk with it. And that's it. Thank you very much.